Well, we're back with the conversation. Now, we've heard so much of your experience in the last 3-4 decades. And moving on, I would want you to assess, would you say that women have carved their niche in the media space, particularly media industry, you know, successfully, or are we still struggling?
I don't think we are still struggling, but I think we can still do a little better. Better in the sense that we don't really have too many women that are in decision-making positions within the media. We have a lot who are visible, who are audible, but how many of them are really calling the shots? We have those who have been brave enough to set up, sometimes maybe in anger that there were certain things they wanted to do
and
but couldn't do it. And they said, well, do you know what?
I have the resources.
I am going to set up on my own. So we've got, we have a couple of radio stations that are owned by women. We have some TV stations that are also owned by women. But in mainstream media, at the point where we have editors, at the point where we have general managers, I think the percentage is smaller than it should be. And I think it has a little bit of a negative effect in the sense that we may not have enough stories in the, yes, there are stories to be told, but perhaps not enough of those stories are being told about the situation in which quite a lot of women find themselves. I remember some time ago being a resource person at a workshop, and it was organized by an NGO for female reporters. And once we started talking about the possibilities of stories that female reporters could tell, people, you know, it suddenly dawned on them that there was a lot more that they could do. But then there was also the comment made that sometimes when these stories are written or the ideas are suggested, the male editors say, no, 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 that is not...
They get shelved.
Yes, that's not, that's not what we want to talk about today. But then I think we also succeeded in making them understand that there is a way that you will tell a story that makes it absolutely irresistible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think in that area, we are still working on that. And pushing out the stories that affect women. And not being shelved by our male editors. Now, you touched a little on this, but I want you to elaborate on it. What are the attributes a female broadcaster should possess for a very successful career?
I think the first thing, actually, is for a female broadcaster to be sure of herself. She should be sure of what she wants to achieve. She should be sure of how far she wants to get within the industry and prepare herself for the ride, prepare herself for the journey. So she needs to have the knowledge. She needs to have the skill. She needs to have determination because there will be challenges. And she needs to have a certain degree. On the one hand, you have the confidence, but I think on the other hand, you must also have a certain degree of humility. I think it's important because you have to balance these things out. And of course, you have to be willing to work hard.
Even twice as hard.
Yes, I don't think there are any. In fact, I know there are no shortcuts. You just have to be ready to do the work.
No holidays,
No,
no weekends.
you're a human being. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you have holidays and and weekends? But the nature of the job is such,
Yes.
and we have to be realistic. Sometimes there is no choice. Sometimes you have to postpone that holiday. It's not that you won't have it,
Yes.
but sometimes you have to postpone it. And sometimes your weekend could be on a Tuesday and Wednesday.
Absolutely.
Not on a
not
Saturday or
or
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think that's the message I wanted to pass across. Exactly, because even the most of the breaking news oftentimes happen on a weekend, and oh yes, and somebody has got to do the job. So, and is there a reason why women dominate the media industry more? Because the men are quite elusive.
When you say dominate, do you
As
mean
in number?
in number?
We have more women
Yes.
going into
Yes.
broadcasting or journalism or whatever aspect of media.
I am not sure what that reason could be, but I do know that in as much as you spend many hours, as a journalist spends many hours on the job, you can also be quite flexible. Your hours can be flexible. And I think that, I remember, for instance, when I was much younger and I was, growing up in this industry, I was married, I had young children, and I worked 2 days on and 2 days off. Then I was a member of the editorial staff in the newsroom. So it was actually not difficult for me to plan my days, plan my weeks, and plan my home. So I think that broadcasting gives you a little bit of leeway to be able to, sort yourself out, if you like, and organize your hours. Even though, as I've said, the hours can be long sometimes, and also they can be frustrating. But I think, again, that for quite a lot of people, both men and women, I think before they get into journalism or broadcasting, sometimes I think they have an idea that they're going into something that is quite fanciful. I think they probably don't understand how hard the job is. Yes, until they get into it. Now, once they get involved, there are no halfway measures. It is either you discover that this is a calling and you're willing to answer it, or you discover that, you know what, this is not for me. And you do a 360 degree and out you go. So honestly, I can't really say why there seem to be more women than men in broadcasting and in journalism generally.
Yeah, well, I've spoken to a few people, and sometimes, most of the time, the remuneration tends to be, one of the reasons, because they believe that the women are already being taken care of by someone. But for the man to be the breadwinner, the remuneration in the industry is not as commensurate as should be with the private sector.
Okay, so you're
or when I say private, I mean other
yes.
Areas, not
Okay.
just broadcasting.
I see where you're going. You're suggesting that if a woman is into broadcasting, she's likely to get support, even if her salary is not that large.
That's what some people said.
Well, okay. It's not your...
No.
That is an observation, yes.
Yeah.
Well, are they right?
Right.
I'm not sure. I'm not
Absolutely.
sure because a lot of women are independent these days, and even if they are married and they have the support of a husband, they still would prefer to be financially independent. And I'm not sure of anybody who, if you're given a choice of earning 10 naira and given the choice of earning 1 naira, that you will say, oh, let me go for the 1 naira. I doubt that. Money is not everything,
Absolutely.
granted, but I think
Yeah.
we have to be realistic.
Realistic.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, there is a new norm, and that is social media. What's your take on the mediocrity and total disregard for professionalism that has pervaded social media broadcasting?
If we look at what is popularly known as citizen journalism, especially within the social media, I would like to look at your word mediocrity from the point of view of how objective are the people who pervade social media. How much truth is there? How much effort do they make to verify the information that they so readily and happily share? From that point of view, I think I would agree that there is a level of mediocrity that could actually become dangerous, because I don't see that fake news is doing any good for anybody. The other aspect of mediocrity that we can look at is actually the professionalism in terms of presentation practice. People, I think, have the idea, those who utilize social media to a large extent, I think they have the idea that they are talking to a certain generation.
Like someone said, alpha generation. They call them alpha generation.
Well, millennials,
yes, there's so many.
alpha, yes,
I
but
know.
a certain generation who I think they feel think in a particular way, act in a particular way, behave in a particular way, and receive information in a particular way. And so maybe they feel that the more casual, the more carefree, the more avant-garde they are, then the more acceptable they will be to their audience. But I think the truth is that social media and all the platforms, they're actually available to everybody. You could be in your 80s or in your teens, and you still have access to social media. So I think that I think there's a level of responsibility that still needs to be considered when you are communicating to a large audience. And let's face it, the audience within that, what do we call it, cyberspace, is probably much larger than the audience that is listening to a radio program or watching a TV program.
Oh.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, let me just take you back. Your what if? What has happened to what if?
Well, the truth is that I shut it down. I ran it for about 15 years. And at the point where I had to close shop, I had to make a choice. I didn't have too many staff. And I had a particular idea of what I wanted to do. And the truth is that my husband was ill at the time, and I had to make a choice between looking after him and running Woodef. And, well, there was always going to be a clear winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We all miss him, though.
Yes, we do. We do.
Finally, this is the home stretch. What would you say your legacy is in the industry?
Legacy. I would like to think that my work ethic is something that those coming behind me, who worked with me,
Who looked up to you?
who looked up to me, I would like to think that I was able to pass on a thing or two to them. I would also like to think that the books that I've written, and I'm still writing, would equally be looked on as my legacy. Yes, because
one is strictly.
Oh, strictly speaking.
Strictly speaking.
Yes, I have written books about speech, which is based to a large extent on the experiences that I have had. I have almost finished writing one book about a certain aspect of my professional life. I am yet to write one more book about my personal life and how I have juxtaposed it within and without the industry. And I'm also writing a series of books for children. So I would like to think that those books are also my legacy.
Awesome. It's been a fantastic time with you. If only not for my clothing, you would have seen goosebumps all over. That I'm talking privileged to interview my role model.
Oh, thank you so much, Siju.
Thank you,
I'm
Mrs.
happy to be
Oloyede,
here.
for coming and giving us, particularly women in media, hope that we can do it. And we can do it well.
You certainly can.
Thank you so
certainly
much.
can.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
More to come shortly. Let's take time to check the etiquette corner.
Mrs. Folashade Georgie, State Secretary to the State Government. A chemist turned public administrator, Mrs. Folashade Sherifat Georgie attended the University of Ibadan, from where she obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry in 1979. Subsequently, she also earned a Master of Business Administration degree from the University of Lagos, Akoka, in 1989. A seasoned and astute administrator, Mrs. Georgie joined the Lagos State Civil Service on 27 October 1980 and had a brief stint at the Judicial Service Commission before she was moved to the Political Affairs Department, Governor's Office, where she served between 1980 and 1982. On 18 February 2005, Mrs. Georgie was appointed Permanent Secretary and deployed to the Ministry of Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, where she oversaw affairs for more than 3 years. She was appointed as the 18th Head of Service of Lagos State on Monday, 16 February 2015, and sworn in on the 18th February 2015. Among her significant achievements, which brought remarkable progress to the state public service during her tenure as Head of Service, include, but are not limited to, implementation of the professionalization of human resource management in the state public service, revision and adoption of the reviewed 2015 Public Service Rules, facilitated approval for the release of the sum of 11 billion naira for the payment of the backlogs of pensions, liabilities and arrears in the state, facilitated the re-establishment of the Post-Primary Teaching Service Commission.
Trends is up next. Trust you've had an enjoyable experience on the show as much as I have. Let's do this same time next week. I am Siju Alabi. Bye for now.